Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today, I don't want to talk about a specific book that I read, but rather I want to do the usual wrap-up and TBR for the months of March and April, respectively. So what did I read in March? There were a lot of good books that I read. I think some book of the year top 10 contenders, and even some books that were like fighting each other for the best of the month. It was a real challenge to pick the best of the month because there were some pretty solid reads and a lot of good graphic novels too. Usually I've been on a sort of streak of not so great graphic novels, but I think this month has been pretty solid for them. And lots more books that I read in March than I've been reading in the past couple months, which is good. And then, you know, what do I intend to read in April? I have a number of good books planned, but I'm always open to suggestions, so let me know in the comments below if you have any, you know, recommendations for me. But other than that, without further ado, let's talk about the wrap-up and TBR, and we'll move on from there. So in terms of books, what did I read in March? I read If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin, which I thought was great. And I'm labeling this the best of the month, even though there are other contenders for it. Pretty solid love story, but it's also a story that's mixed with, racial history and injustice in the justice system. You really root for the main characters, even though you know that things aren't really going to work out that well, because, you've seen, if you've existed in this world, you know how unfair the justice system can be at times. I definitely recommend you go check out the video that I made for it. I go into pretty deep. I go into great depth in the book, so it's a lot of fun, and we're talking about. And then I also read Wave by Darren Yagala, which I thought was okay. It didn't go as far as I wanted it to go, and the writing left a lot to be desired, but the content of what the author was talking about in their memoir was pretty fascinating and heart-wrenching as well. So it was solid. I didn't talk about it on this channel because there wasn't a lot for me to talk about, but it was an interesting book. So go check that out if you're looking for an interesting memoir about a terrible event that happened in the mid-2000s. I also started One Piece. I read Volume 1, which I thought was a lot of fun, very silly, not as bizarre or complex as other graphic novels that I've been reading, but it is still interesting, and I'm very curious to see where the series goes, because it's continued for 100 volumes. What does that mean? Like, what directions could it possibly go? Does it get any weirder than it is? We'll see how that goes. I also read Coven, which was another graphic novel about a young girl who is with her family who are witches and wizards and things like that. Pretty interesting story. It did feel a bit like it was a story in progress, like maybe I was missing something, like the author was like hiding important information, or maybe it was a sequel to something, but I never found the original, so it just seems like there's a lot of information missing that could have been fleshed out in this story. I also read We See Each Other by Trevel Anderson, about Black transgender history, especially in the media. It was very interesting, and I think it's important, especially in these transphobic and racist times that we live in. A lot of desire to erase transgender individuals from history and also deprive them of their rights. And it's very important to read these stories from these people and fight for them whenever possible. I didn't really have a lot to say beyond that so I didn't really make a video about it, but it is a pretty good book. Again, that's We See Each Other by Trevel Anderson. And then I also read Jonny, the Homicidal Maniac, a graphic novel of sorts by Jonny Vasquez. I didn't think it was that great. Felt like it was trying too hard to be edgy, which if it had something interesting to say, I wouldn't mind that, but it doesn't really seem to have a lot to say beyond, that humanity is dark. I made a video about it, but again, there wasn't a lot to say in that video either, so not really a fan of it. I also read Genderqueer by Maya Kobabe, which I thought was an amazing book. It's probably a contender with If Beale Street Could Talk for the best of the month. I think if Beale Street Could Talk is maybe better, although they're two separate books. I just think Genderqueer is a great graphic novel, and the journey of, trying to understand yourself in terms of your sexuality and your gender, and trying to carve a place for your world where you're recognized and people acknowledge who you are rather than who they perceive you to be. That's a really tough struggle, and Maya Kobabe is really, a solid person for managing to share their story, and also, dealing with the pushback from conservative people who wish to silence Maya, silence them, and again, hide those types of people from the world because they're afraid that their children might discover this book and question authority or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty amazing, and there's a lot more worth talking about, so I definitely recommend that you go seek it out. I also read The Last Son of Krypton, which was a Superman comic, which contained the stories about Superman fighting Zod and coming into contact with Superboy, as well as another story that was written by Richard Donner, which is about Superman's first contact with Brainiac. And I thought that both of them were really good stories. I don't normally like Superman because Superman feels more like an abstraction to me than anything else. And it's hard to really make Superman appear vulnerable. But this story does a really good job because it presents him as like the last of Krypton. But there's these other people who might have the key for them to understand their past. But it's not that easy for Kal-El, for Superman. And I do like how in Richard Donner's version with Brainiac, Superman is depicted as Christopher Reeves, which is pretty cool. I do like that there was that sort of homage to that actor. And then I also read Slip, which I thought was really beautiful, a really solid story. It was about, I should have talked about it, but I didn't. Slip was more so about an artist trying to understand why her friend tried to kill herself, and also trying to sort of solidify their attempts at art, but coming into a lot of questions because of their uncertainty about their friend. It's just really good. It's I didn't expect it to be good. I picked it up from my local library, but there was a lot there, but also not a lot there, so that's why I didn't talk about it on this channel. I also read a number of short stories, including A World Without Men and Debt, which I thought both were just okay. The Ghost of Mohammed Den, which I thought was fun, and Southside, which I thought was intriguing, sort of a take on the United States planning for nuclear war, but only including those that they feel are worthy and are going to continue Western Christian civilization, and is written by an indigenous man. So it's it feels like a conspiracy theory at times, but it's you can kind of trust that this man knows what he's talking about, given the history of indigenous treatment in America. So pretty solid short story there. And then I read a number of poems. Be sure to check out my Poetry Thursday playlist for more information on that. But what do I intend to read for April? In terms of books, at the beginning of April, I have the book of Genesis planned. Also, a book from my friend Bevan that I've been meaning to get to called Paper Names. Kite Runner, which is on my 2025 TBR. I'm looking forward to reading that. Road to Perdition, which is a graphic novel, also on my TBR for this year. Want to get to that. Some library reads that I pick up from my local library. Don't forget to patronize your local library. The Last Vampire on Earth by Mandy Abraham. which is sort of like a bad book. I had seen the movie first, which is a sort of parody or kind of pastiche of Twilight, but done really terribly. A friend recommended it to me, so I'm kind of just reading it as a joke, which you probably shouldn't do. You shouldn't read books that are bad on purpose. Like I read Atlas Shrugged a while back. It's a waste of time often. But in terms of short stories, I have some planned from Susan Glaspell, Angelica Gorodischer, and David Langford, so be on the lookout for that. And then I have a number of poems planned, so be sure to check out my Poetry Thursday playlist for more information on that. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the wrap-up and TBR for March and April. A lot of interesting books planned, and a lot of things that I've covered that are pretty high quality, some maybe not as high quality. If you have any recommendations for me, again, let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you and maybe read something that you think I would be interested in, or you just want to tell me to read it because it's awful and you just want to see me yell about it on this channel. Hopefully not the second one. But yeah, other than that, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this channel if they don't already know. Also, join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books, movies, TV, and other sorts of things like that. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and April-related travels. Farewell.